Joseph, Europe has been a global pioneer when it comes to environmental regulations, from the beginning of the Kyoto Protocol to regulations of the European Green Deal. Also, Europe is the continent that it is warming fastest than anybody, twice as fast as other continent. How does it all influence how ESA perceives space sustainability?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, very nice good morning here. I'm very happy to see such a full room. It shows also that space sustainability is a big topic and is of interest to everyone. Certainly also in Europe. As you said, Heriberto, we have policies in place that really are focusing on sustainability. It is sustainability of our planet, of the European continent, countries. Climate change is one element, but it goes way further. What do we do in ESA? The European Space Agency has developed a number of activities, and I start maybe in-house first before I go out to space, and because space is shared, and it's probably sometimes easy to say everyone should take good care of space out there, but we have to really start in-house in our own buildings, in our own front yard, in order to really practice sustainability and build it up. So what we do, I've decided in the European Space Agency in a document called Agenda 2025 that I'm committing that ESA, together with its member states, we are having a decarbonization of our footprint, of our carbon footprint, and by minus 46.2% between 2019 and 2030. So this is a value that is enshrined in our goals, in our objectives, and we're doing it. We are looking into the usage of electricity, having solar panels, for example, to produce solar-based energy, and so on. So there are many, many measures. They have to do with managing buildings, but also energy consumption. One of the large energy consumers, obviously, is our launch base in French Guiana, Kourou. So we have really looked very seriously into this, and I can tell you that we are on the path to reduce our carbon footprint significantly within the premises of the European Space Agency. We also work with our member states and industry because a lot of the activities we are doing together. So also we have life cycle assessments. We have issued a charter that was signed up by many of our members on the sustainable use of space in general. It's a very popular activity, and I can tell you that we have a lot of activities, working groups where we are working along this line. Then you go a bit further. We have satellites that are looking at our environment. We have one of the largest Earth observation monitoring programs, not only Copernicus, which is probably the best known, and I know the Philippines are working also with this data, but also everyone around the globe. Copernicus obviously is made to monitor our planet. We are disseminating large amounts of data to the globe for free as a service really to the global community in close cooperation with the European Commission. And this is something that I think Europe can be very proud of, to really assist other countries, all the nations to utilize this data. And they're not only for climate change, they're really for many other purposes as well, from agricultural management. You can actually use many services to create businesses and really make money based on satellite-based information and make sure that this is well utilized. We also have an Earth Science program that goes very closely with climate change. We have an ESA climate office that is, again, looking into climate parameters. So we have a huge array of activities within the European Space Agency. About 1/3 of our budget is allocated to Earth observation. Then you go into space debris, and we have heard this very clearly also from our colleagues and friends, that space debris obviously is something that we need to look after. Do not understand me wrong. We are not against launching satellites, which eventually will create debris, but what we do, we're supporting this, of course, but what we do, of course, is we need to make sure that space debris or satellites in orbit at the end of their life need to be managed properly to avoid exactly what happens on the shores of Australia and in many other places, that we are seeing them falling down or even disturbing the operations in space. And there we have quite an active program, Zero Debris Charter, to name just one, but many other things as well. And when we go further to the lunar surface or to outer space, again, sustainability is an issue, and we're also looking into this. So it's really a multidimensional activity from your own house to looking at our planet, using satellites and space for sustainability purposes, to making sure that our satellites in space are not hindering others, and therefore we have a sustainable management, and then beyond the Earth orbits into outer space.
Thanks so much, Joseph. Joseph, ESA has a holistic approach to space sustainability. It's rather unique. We're aiming to minimize the impact of our activities in 3 different environments that we interact, on Earth, on orbits, and beyond. How is ESA embedding sustainability into our mission planning and procurement?
Well, thank you, Heriberto. As you say that, you're right, I think, to say that ESA is quite unique in the approach that was taken, because sustainability really goes across the various phases and the various activities. I mentioned before that we have measures in-house, then our satellites are measuring the sustainability on our planet and of our planet altogether, and then going further. But of course we do this through a number of actions, and this is really when we define a mission. There's a number of criteria defined in order to meet sustainability criteria. Let me just pick out one. I mentioned the Zero Debris Charter, which is something that is actually quite unique. We have offered on a voluntary basis a document or charter for members, and these members are either countries or industry or organizations. If they sign up, they commit that they will take out a satellite at the end of its life from orbit within a period of 5 years. And I've instructed my engineers within ESA to implement this, obviously very strictly. That means every engineer in ESA who is developing a new satellite, and we have launched quite a few recently, and we keep launching them, has to guarantee that at the end of the life, the satellite will leave orbit. That means there's enough fuel on board to deorbit it. The structure has to be made in a way that it is breaking up and burning up completely in the atmosphere, not washing up at the shores of Australia or coming down to the surface. So there are a number of measures that we are doing. Of course, we need to develop technology in order to make this happen. That means technology for the deorbiting, for the structures. Some of the smaller satellites, CubeSats or smaller satellites, they don't have a lot of money, so they need very simple mechanisms of doing it. And one of our technology studies that we have done and which we will implement on satellites is at the end of the life, some kind of spring opens a panel, a solar panel. It's like a sail, and although there is vacuum, there's still a little bit of drag, and this drag is then making sure that the satellite can be taken out of the orbit and therefore deorbits and is leaving the orbit space in order to not create new debris. So there's a lot of measures we are taking. Actually, I want to invite all countries, organizations to sign up to the charter. We have 180 members today who have signed up to this charter, also including in the Southeast Asian and Pacific region. New Zealand is one of the countries that has signed up, and we are in discussion with several other countries. So it's really a very popular mechanism. And the nice thing is it is voluntary. We are not a regulatory body as ESA, we are a space agency, but we have just put the initiative in place, and many countries say, look, this is a great idea, let's join this charter and this group, because it is really a very concrete measure of implementing sustainability, as some of you have mentioned how important this is. Maybe just one second point for you, Heriberto, and also for the audience here. On sustainability, also, of course, on climate change, we are doing a lot through our Copernicus program. We have many measures in place in order to, first of all, monitor the planet, but not only that, also convert data into simulations. We have just implemented a high-performance computer to merge observations with Earth system models and high-performance computing in order to allow simulations, what we call digital twin Earth, that we can simulate our Earth or parts of our planet in order to see what would happen if this change happens, if temperature increases by not 1.5 degrees, but by 3 degrees or 2 degrees. What happens if the tropical forest is deforested in the Amazons, for example, by another 10%? What is the impact on not only the climate, but also on people, on sea level rise, on the economy of people, and so on? So this is quite a complex activity, but also to show that we use all our space means and deep tech and high-tech technologies in order to make sure that we help people on the ground with their local issues which they may have.
Thanks so much, Joseph. Joseph, the same question. Where do we see the biggest gaps, technology, regulation, or governance?
It's probably all of the above. Certainly regulation is one point. I mean, sometimes I compare what happens in the evolution of space with what happened 100 years ago in the evolution of planes and air traffic. 100 years ago, when the first planes were flying in the sky, of course, everyone was flying as they wished, more or less, and there were very little rules, and you could go from one place to the other. Today, we have a very clear air traffic management system with very clear rules on which planes are flying on which altitude and how to avoid collisions, obviously. In space, we are actually in a similar situation. Of course, we have more and more spacecraft coming into space, more than 10,000 today, and the numbers are going up very fast. So we need just to do the same as people have done 100 years ago, or several decades ago, in establishing not only an air traffic management system and international organizations that look after it and make the rules, and then others who are observing the rules, but in space we need to do exactly the same. So we need governance. As you mentioned, whether governance is needed, absolutely, because space by nature is global, and the issues are of global impact. Secondly, we need technology to monitor it and to manage it, and space traffic management systems. That means a combination of ground radars, maybe space-based systems that allow to know where which object is, not only the satellites, but also debris and maybe unused upper stages of rockets, which are still also a very big problem, by the way. It's not only satellites. And all this needs to be organized. So yes, we are, I would say, in a phase where the problem is recognized. That's also the reason why we have this discussion here, and thank you for organizing it. But now we need to make sure that we are not behind the reality. That means the reality is kicking in so fast, launches are going so fast, so many satellites are coming up in a very rapid number, and others, and the means and the regulatory and the technical means are not catching up. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. And this is exactly also where ESA is working on several of these activities, not on the regulatory aspects, but more on the technical sides. And I think this needs global efforts. This needs everyone to work together, from China, the US, Russia, Europe, Africa, Philippines. Everyone is needed there to really work together, because it's affecting everyone and is for everyone's benefit. So yes, this is really a call for global action, which is urgently needed in order to really make good progress on this domain.
Thanks, Joseph. So now we get a couple of questions from the public here. I have one for all of you. How do you see the role of private space sector in sustainability?
Let's start. Yeah. No, the private sector will play a hugely increasing role. Already today, the private sector is providing services, and I really talk of all the elements of sustainability. It's not only debris monitoring, and which is obviously the one that we have been focusing here. It's also on sustainability, using space technology for sustainability on Earth. There's so much to do to make sure that our planet is used sustainably, that not only our generation is having a nice planet, but also the next and the next afterwards is really having an environment that is good and with all the elements that are related to it. So the private sector is really increasing its contribution. I'm very happy to see that. We are supporting this enormously in Europe through the European Space Agency. We have programs put in place where we attract venture capital funds to public funding of the European Space Agency. Last year we got 1.5 billion of private funding coming into space in Europe, a 53% increase compared to the year before. And certainly the private sector is the one that we would like to utilize more and more for all aspects of space, and obviously sustainability being a big issue.
Thanks, Joseph. Thank you. Joseph, this question I think you're going to like. Could the ESA Zero Debris Charters be an equivalent to Artemis Accords for space sustainability?
Thank you. I really like the questions, whoever was asking for it. No, I think it is quite an interesting vehicle. And maybe one thing that is very interesting on this space Zero Debris Charter is that it is really a different mix of participants who have signed up to it. I mentioned the countries, mentioned quite a few of them, but about 3/4 of them are companies, private companies who have signed up because they have a very genuine interest that if they build satellites and launch satellites, that their satellites obviously are also being taken out at the end of their life, assuming that others do the same, and therefore really are creating this environment and this behavior that space is utilized in a sustainable manner. And actually there are quite a few large companies who have signed up to this as well, who are building up huge constellations. Obviously in Europe, Europe, we have our big industrial partners, Airbus, Thales, OHB, who have signed up to the charter for very obvious reasons. They said to me, look, Joseph, it costs me money to implement the measures to deorbit the satellite at the end of its life. I need more fuel, I need to maybe change something on the design of the satellite. It costs me money. But of course, we are needing to do it. Otherwise, we are eliminating our future ground of business. That means space where the satellites are being launched. But also, for example, Amazon was signing up to the charter in view of the future Kuiper constellation, which will be thousands or tens of thousands of satellites that are coming up. So to say that also they, as a larger partner globally, are having a keen interest, and the charter keeps evolving. Actually, I would like to acknowledge the presence of some of my colleagues here in the room. Rolf Densing, the director in charge of operations, including space safety, is here with us, and certainly can give you more information on the future projects of this of the evolution of the charter. Will it become the future Artemis? Artemis, of course, is driven more on a government-to-government level, but the charter is a mix of government and businesses, which I think incorporates the partners that need to be on board.
Thanks, Joseph. We get 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask one question for all of you, and if we get more time, maybe another one. But in conducting space activities, there are often unintended consequences of what we do. Some are positive, however, some are negatives. What consideration is given to those consequences, if any, and how do you navigate that? Somebody wants to start?
Very good question, and really thank you for that. Sometimes I use the example of, if I get a question from journalists or somebody to say, look, your rockets are polluting, and how can you justify that? You're increasing the carbon emissions and so on. Yes, it's true, of course, every means of transport is polluting, airplanes, cars, rockets, and so on. But I usually say, look at what they are doing. If this rocket is transporting a satellite that is monitoring our planet, take a Copernicus satellite as an example. First of all, without satellites, we would not understand the state of our planet, as simple as that, because the accuracy of the data we are getting of the atmosphere, of the oceans, of the land, the interactions of the Earth system is so perfect, is so well documented with these observations from satellites, so that we really understand issues like climate change, like sustainable use of farmland, sustainable use of water management areas, and so on. So we do need this information in order to, first of all, understand the magnitude of the problem and therefore give policymakers and decision makers actions or proposals for actions that they can act upon and really implement some measures. So yes, the rocket is polluting, that's correct, but the benefit of these satellites providing the information that we need in order to make better decisions at the end of the day is so much bigger, so you really have to see it in relation.
Thank you. How do you involve young people, especially students, in your space sustainability projects?
I will be fast, but I'm very happy about this question because that's something that is very dear to my heart. I am involving young people a lot in defining it, and actually it's those young people who tell me that you have to look after this, you have to do that in terms of sustainability. So it's a very important impulse which I get there. The energy of young people is incredible. I actually then turn it back to them and say, look, I challenge you as well. You tell me sustainability is important, we should do something. Tell me what we can do, how we can do it, and come with concrete project ideas. This is happening within ESA. We have a very active young professional group in ESA, and they love talking about this and come back to us, to the top management with some ideas. So fantastic. I really like this energy, and I see also in this room quite a few young people. I'm very happy to see that, and please come back with your ideas and bring them to whoever needs to listen and to hear about, and hopefully we can do something about what you have in mind.